Looks like we've got 17 on the call. Welcome. For those that don't know me, my name is Larry Kahn. I am the president of the Vacaville Jets, as well as the co-founder of Golden State Elite. Today we have special guests. This is our girls session. We've done a handful of these sessions throughout the past shutdown of the government here, the quarantine, and I think this is the 7th or 8th that I've done, and this is the first that I've done that's all girls. So welcome to the show. And today we're doing this so that we can give an opportunity for all the young ladies in the area to have the opportunity to ask questions to a young lady that's been in your shoes, that's been playing in Northern California, and has grinded her way up to getting her college scholarship and being, ready to make that jump. She's a senior in high school this coming season, so she still has one more year before she graduates from high school, and then she will move on to Penn State the following year. And so I'd like to introduce Karley. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences with these young ladies.
Yeah, anytime.
Awesome. So can you start off with maybe, and just for those that don't know, Karley is from the Sacramento area. She's going to go ahead and explain kind of her process and her steps through starting the game all the way that's kind of brought her to right now.
Okay. Yeah, so when I first started, I played a year in Capital Thunder, and then from there I moved to play about 2 years in Stockton, and then from there I played with GSC for about 3 years. And then from GSC, I moved on to play for North American Hockey Academy, also known as NAHA. This coming season will be my 3rd year. So their girls academy were there from about October to about March, I would say, and it's all hockey. So it's all based around hockey. So
fantastic. And we're going to have an opportunity to ask you what a day that is like for Karley Garcia when she's at school at the academy. We did have a handful of the listeners email their questions in, and we're going to fire away as we go. Real quick, everyone take a deep breath, relax. We're going to have a little bit of fun here. This is all good information that you can you can ask as well. I do have a chat screen there. I'm going to leave it open. If you do have any questions, don't fill it up with questions because we've got a list to get through. But if there's something that comes to your mind that you'd like to ask, shoot it there. And if we get through these, then we'll jump there. But it might get asked along the way. So we're going to start. First question is from Lucy Tenenbaum. And Lucy says, when did you switch over to play with the girls? And when did you make that switch over to play with the girls? And then also the second part of that question is in hindsight, do you feel you could have had another year with playing co-ed?
Okay. I switched over my sophomore year of high school. And
first year midget, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I switched over my sophomore year, and I do think I could have had many more years playing co-ed, but I think if you do that, it's important to know that you need to go to the East Coast for at least a couple of girls tournaments to showcase yourself. So I think, yes, it is possible to play as many years co-ed that you want, but you have to at least play a couple girls tournaments to get your name out there, to showcase your skills, and to get the opportunity to be seen by colleges and schools and such.
Perfect. And just hearing how you said that, I think what she's saying is like being on a girls tournament team. Which, did you have that experience yourself prior to going to do just girls?
No, I've been invited to play on a couple, but I think I didn't have the opportunity because when I was playing for GSC, I was also playing soccer, so I was very, very busy, and so I think if I were to do it all again, I would do a girls tournament team just so I could get that exposure when I was younger and all that, and have more options and all that. So
perfect. Okay, so the next question is going to be interesting. We've got lots of questions to go here, and so I know we all want to hear as much information as possible as we go along. We'll get to it all. When you were 12 years old, Karley, did you know that you were going to have a chance to play college hockey? Did you know it at 12? Or what was that time? What was that moment you're like, I'm going to play?
Well, I think at 12 years old, I mean, I'm young then. I wasn't really thinking too much about college hockey at that point. I'm pretty much thinking I want to play on the national team, like big goals and not the next step.
Okay.
So I think I probably didn't really start thinking about college hockey until my 8th grade freshman year, and I think it really became real to me once I went to Naha and I had teammates that were committed to colleges and I was surrounded by all these great players, and then that's when it really hit me that that is the next step.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Um, okay, next question from Tiara Wu. And she asks, how do you effectively balance school and hockey?
Good question. I think it's all time management and having good relationships with your teachers, just so that you are going to be missing school for hockey. That's a given. So I think just getting help if you need it, and just so that you create those great relationships so that you can get help when you need it, and just managing your time well.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So the next question, and we've got a lot here. So put the seatbelt on. This is going to be great. How important is off ice training for you to reach your goals? And how much time did you put into your stick skills along the way?
Um, I don't think I really realized how important off ice training was until high school, for me at least, because I mean, the whole point of off ice training is so that you can get better on the ice. And so, if you want to get better, then you need to put the time in off the ice. So now I work out every day, and I probably stick handle 5 out of 7 times, shoot pucks. But back then, when I didn't realize it, I probably was only doing that maybe once a week. And so I think it's very important to get your work in, not only working out, lifting, but like stick handling, shooting pucks.
Perfect. And you mentioned lifting. I know that in the boys' world, there, if you don't train and lift weights hard at
Mhm.
14 years old on, you have no chance.
Yeah.
In the women's hockey, if you don't train lifting weights, can you keep up to the game, or does the game pass you?
I mean, I personally, I think if you want to make it to the next level, and if you want to set yourself up to succeed, then you will lift. I think you might be able to get away with it, but I think if once you hit that next level, it's gonna pass you by, because you may not be checking, but it's still a very physical game. You want your shot harder, your body in the corners, like being able to separate yourself, create space for yourself. So I
Absolutely.
think lifting is a very important aspect.
Absolutely. I think being tough to play against at any level is an aspect of the game that's important, especially when you get to the college hockey level.
Yep.
Perfect. Next question is from Jillian Klein. And what are some of the hardest situations that you've had to overcome on your path to college hockey?
I think the obvious one is leaving home. I mean, Naha's in Massachusetts and I'm in Northern California. So leaving home was tough. And then coming, I think the hard part was to come back home and then learning how to take all the tools that I got and incorporate them at home. So working on the ice and all that type of stuff. And then I think also another thing is the mental aspect of national camps and stuff like that. So really just learning how to showcase yourself and not get in your head when you're playing against the best players in the country. So I think that's really the big one.
That's awesome. And interesting how you just touched on not get into your head. We just did five things that make a difference. And one of the aspects we discussed last Monday, I think it was, or doesn't matter, was mental mindset.
Mm-hmm.
How to be adaptable, how to figure out how to use your mind to support yourself instead of letting your nerves get to you. That's great.
Yeah, I think with that, like everyone does it in a different way, but for me, I've really learned that if I don't compare myself to others, then I will play my game, because the minute you start doing that is the minute you stop playing your game, because my strengths could be different than your strengths, and your weaknesses may be my strength and my strength might be like vice versa. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, next question. What advice do you have for a 12-year-old girl who plays here in Northern California? What advice do you have for them to help them, maybe it's the biggest thing that was a difference for you, or whatnot? What advice could you send the 12-year-old girl of how to get to the next level?
I think just taking care of everything off the ice, whether that's nutrition's a big one, like I said, lifting, schoolwork, all that off ice stuff, if you get that taken care of, and then when it's time to play hockey, you can just play hockey without worrying about anything. So once again, that goes with time management as well. I think that's the big thing. And then just showcasing yourself, getting into those tournaments so that people can see you play.
Now, is there such thing as showcasing at 10, 11, 12 years old?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think, yeah, I think there is. I mean, I think I don't know if I would call it showcasing, but I think if coaches are watching, tell the difference between players. If this player is skating hard to the bench, like a little thing like that, instead of just like not really skating very hard, like that will be like that tells the coach they're a hard worker. If they're able to separate themselves in the corner and little things like that, it's not necessarily dangling and scoring 4 goals. It's like the little things like that.
Nice, nice. Okay. Next question, Evangeline Mount, and her question is, what would you say to those that pressured you to play girls hockey?
Um,
And I
I
think the question is she plays with co-ed, and she's probably getting a little pressure to go play on an all girls team.
yeah.
What kind of things do you have to say about that? Like, did that happen to you? And what should she say? I guess the recruiting's happening, and they're saying all the things you can get from girls that you don't get from boys, and maybe some negative things about the boys.
I didn't. I like for me personally, I don't think that really came into play at all until when I went to district camp my freshman year, I think it was, and they had like a fair for prep schools, and that's when I started to really realize like what girls hockey was. But I mean, in the end, it really just comes in a personal preference, and like it's your decision, so you have to make the decision that is right for yourself. So there's many different things like prep school, like if you decide prep school, that's obviously good hockey, but that's a lot more academically structured, whereas an academy like the one I go to is very very hockey structured, and then they make sure you get your academics done. So it just depends. Like you have to, many people have their own experiences and feel the way they feel, but you kind of have to figure out what the right fit is for you.
Perfect. To add to that, at what age do you think is the perfect age to go to that all girls team, and or if it would be local or going away?
See, for me, when I was committing, the rules are different than they were now. So the rules now are you can't even talk to a college coach until the end of your sophomore year, I think it is. But for me, you could do it kind of behind the scenes, get it through your coach and all that.
The
So
rules were there were then too. The
yeah,
rules, and just so you guys know, I received phone calls from the head coach, or from the assistant coach. I actually talked to the Penn State coach.
yeah,
Well, we're not technically able to call the player, but whatnot. So
yeah,
it's interesting how that works.
yeah,
And it
exactly.
wasn't Penn State. I can't remember what school it was. It was a couple different schools I ended up talking to.
Yeah, so exactly. So those were the rules then. So I think they were committing players very, very young then. So I think back when I was committing, I think it would have been a good decision if I left my freshman year. But now with the new rules and everything, I don't think it's as critical until it's all personal preference again, but I think either your freshman, sophomore year, I mean, you might even be able to sneak by with your junior year. It just depends on where you are in your development and what you're looking for and all that. So there's a lot that goes into play with that.
Perfect. Perfect. Let me see here. As a youth hockey player, what do you think you did differently to get you to where you're at, where so many other girls failed?
I think it's just a desire to compete. Like I said, like when I was younger, I didn't really realize how much off ice is, but now that I've realized that, I have a desire to do it, and so now I'm doing that every day. And when I'm on the ice, I want to be the best one on the ice, even if I know I'm not. You have to kind of tell yourself that so that you can play at the best. And then I think another thing is just knowing your strengths. So knowing like what makes me a good player and really honing into that and using that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. We have a question from Tiara Wu. Are there drastic differences between playing co-ed and or playing with the girls, and which do you prefer when you were younger?
I wouldn't say drastic difference. The girls game is definitely a slower game, but I think that's only because since there is no checking, it makes it a much smarter game. So I don't know which one I would prefer because like the boys game was very, very fun because it was super fast paced and it was fun. But the girls, it makes you use your brain a little bit more. So I don't know. They're both fun.
Okay, and I have to jump in here and talk a little bit about my experience with Karley, just so that the girls on the call understand. As a first year bantam, it's very difficult to play bantam AA hockey. Very difficult. And I think the season that Karley played made my team at bantam AA. I think we only had 5 first years, and she was one of those 5 first years. And last year, I think we had 2 first years, and the year before there was only 4 first years, and I think we had 1 year, 3 years ago with the 04s, we had 8. But for the most part, there's only a handful. Karley was one of the top players in the area. It didn't matter if she was a girl and playing with the boys. It did not matter. And we're going to talk about her strengths later when we get to those questions, which is why she could succeed playing with the boys and being at the top. And we'll get to that. She says that it's exciting and fun. First year bantam, she took a licking, and it was physical, and she got ran over, and she kept battling hard and getting back up, and I didn't have to walk on the ice one time the whole season to pick her up. But she was very mentally strong and battled through it. But then that set her up for the next year for second year bantam, where she pretty much dominated the division. So there's a lot of that mental preparation she's talking about. I totally got off topic, but I've never really told her that, and this was my platform to tell her that. I'm proud of her, but she took a licking that first year.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Can you explain a typical day in the life of Karley Garcia at national camp?
At national camp, not at
national camp.
Okay. Well, that varies. So I think, the first day you get there, you arrive, you have like physical testing. So it's weights and all that type of stuff in the gym. They test you on that, and then you get on the ice, you warm up a little bit, and then they test your skating a little bit. So that's the first day, and then the rest of the camp is very similar. You either have practice in the morning, game at night, or vice versa, or you just have 2 practices, or you just have 2 games. So it just depends on the day. But a day is like you have practice, rest, whatever. There's a lot of like they bring in a lot. Like last year we had Kendall Coyne come in and she talked to us, which was cool. And then she did that in between our practice and our game. So they always set up some sort of event. There's always a team building event snuck in there, and a couple workouts. So
that's great. That's great. Now talk about a day in the life at the academy.
Okay, so the academy, we wake up around 7:10. We eat breakfast, and so our living situation is set up into 3 different cabins, and there's about 12 people in each cabin. And so everyone has breakfast in their own cabin. Then we go to the rink. We practice from about 8:30 to, on paper, probably about 10, but it can run a little bit longer. And then from there we go to workout. I think Mondays, Wednesdays, and if we're not leaving for our games, if we're home for Friday, then we lift Friday too. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays we do conditioning. And so then from there, that's all at the rink. And then from there, we go when we go back to our campus, have lunch, school from about 1:30 to 6:40, and then dinner after that, and then free time, homework. Sometimes we have study hall once a week.
That's awesome. Now, how do I put this? How many do you skate 5 days a week plus games? How many ice times would you say that you have throughout the week?
Normally we're on the ice every day, 7 days a week. If it is a long weekend, if we're playing in a huge tournament, it could be only 5 times, because we might say say it's a long travel day. Then normally, so when we go for Detroit, for example, that's a long bus ride. So we go and then we get off the bus and we actually skate right off of the bus just to get our legs fresh. And then since that was a very long weekend, they'd normally give us Mondays off and such like that. So anywhere from like 5 days a week to 7 days a week. It just depends on your game schedule.
Yep. Very cool. So next question. What over your career, what has been the most challenging skill to master?
I think for this one, deception, and using deception going backwards. I know you've always mentioned this, like when we talk about showcasing ourselves, and it's all about deception, because like you said, if you're just skating backwards with the puck, and like they're not going to pick you over someone that's faking and doing all that. So I think going into all these national camps, being able to use deception to my advantage has really helped me, but it's been very difficult to learn.
That's awesome. I'm going to explain a little bit more and go in a little more in depth on that. And I always explain to the players, every time you step on the ice, it's a showcase situation. You want to be able to play to where someone notices you and says, wow, she's good. Mm-hmm. And your competition is surrounding you. So all you girls on this call, you have to realize your competition are these boxes on this computer. You guys are competing against each other to get to college hockey because there's only so many spots. Mm-hmm. So you have to differentiate yourselves from the player next to you. And to do that, there's lots of little areas. Karley talks about deception in this one, and it's a very, very big one. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very big one. You can go grab the puck and pass it to the wing, or you can go grab the puck, take it back, fake pass, look off the other way, and then make your pass. And those little things that you add make a big difference. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Very good point. Very good point, Karley. Thank you. Okay, question from Lucy Tannenbaum. What skills did you develop in girls hockey that you did not get to develop playing co-ed because maybe of the size, speed, and checking?
I think when I transferred over, I became a very offensive-minded defenseman. So like you said, when I was playing boys, I got ran over. I couldn't really be offensive or do any of that. So when I transferred into kind of the slower, smarter game, I was used to the fast pace, and I was a smart player, so I could understand what to do, but then I could actually do it when I transferred into this other game. So I think I became a very offensive D, and I think that's really helped me. So
that's awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna actually ask on that. How do I put it? Sorry, I'm thinking of how I want to word the question.
No worries.
What skill do you feel allowed you to compete at Bantam AA hockey and be a solid defenseman, defensewoman?
Like while I was playing boys.
Yes.
Um, for me, I think it was just I was just a smart player. I didn't really like back then. I don't really think I was like I didn't have great hands. I wasn't I wasn't the best skater. I was none of those things, but I worked hard and I like made the smart, simple plays, effective plays. That's what I think at least.
Smart, simple play. I
Yeah.
call it puck retention.
Yeah.
Every time Karley got the puck went to our team, which is a very, very important skill to have at any level that you play.
Mm-hmm.
At any level. Well, that was a baited question. So now I'm going to follow up with the next question. Okay. And the next question is, what helped you get those smarts? What do you feel helped contribute to you being a smart hockey player?
I think just growing up in the boys' environment. I mean, it was constantly super super fast, so I didn't have time to make those like fancy plays or like process what I'm doing. I had to think ahead and know what I was going to do with the puck before I got it. So I think it was just the environment I grew up in, just understanding that I don't have time to do this because one, I don't have the hands or the speed or any of that. So I need to use my brain just so that I can do it quickly.
Yep, awesome. I'm gonna touch on that a second too as well. Karley was a multi-sport athlete the whole time she played for me, and so she played high-end soccer, and high-end means probably a Northern California All-Star team. Would that be comparable?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Um, I believe that her playing both sports, because soccer offers a spatial awareness. It teaches a spatial awareness triangulation, which also relates to the hockey game. I think that her getting it in both environments, both hockey and soccer. Soccer is a little bit slower pace, so
Mhm.
it's absorbed a little bit easier, a little quicker. I think that it helped her. I have a 2-year-old little girl. I will be coaching girls hockey eventually, and at the end of the day, she's going to be doing both sports. She's going to be playing soccer and hockey, because I believe that I watched it full live coaching Karley for 3 seasons, seeing her bring the strategies of triangulation and support by spreading out and whatnot, which is what soccer is all about.
Yeah, and even it's funny you bring that up because even when I was first committing, talking to my Penn State coach, these coaches like noticed these things too because they were like, when I would be on the boards, I could use my feet to get off the boards and move quickly. So it was a tool. Like soccer helped me get some tools that I normally wouldn't have.
Awesome. Check. Okay. Evangeline Mount, her next question is, how did you stay competitive with the boys on GSE? And what else did you do to train aside from playing on the team?
I think for me, it was just knowing my role on the team. Like I said before, I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't this or that, but I knew my role and I knew how to make an impact. And that was just making the simple plays, keeping the puck within our team, and not trying to do too much. And as far as training, I think, like you said, soccer. I did that a lot. So every day I was either playing soccer or hockey. So
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. Question from Maddie Connolly. Do you have any recommendations for high school girls programs or any experience of?
it depends on what you want. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but if you like prep schools, for example, they have very good hockey, but they're very more academic. They're oriented around their academics. Whereas an academy like Naha, or there's another academy like Selects Academy, they play probably 4 times the amount of hockey that prep schools play. And that's just because prep schools, you're required to play 3 sports and all that. So whereas in academy, you're there from September to March and it's all hockey. And you still are doing the academics, getting that probably, I think there's the ratio is like 2 to 1 teachers to students. So you're still getting very good academics and you're playing very, very high end hockey. So it's all depends on your personal preference and what you're trying to achieve, whether that's prep school or academy.
Fantastic. Okay, so if you had to do it all over again, if you had to start at square one, knowing what you know now, if there's anything that you would change, what would you change? And if not, well, then you don't have much to say. What would you do over?
I don't think I would change anything other than the fact of I think I love the fact that I played boys hockey, and I wouldn't change that for the world. I think I should have played a couple tournaments in the East Coast, maybe my freshman year, sophomore, before I went to Naha. While I was playing on a boys team, go to the East Coast, play a couple tournaments with girls hockey, so that some colleges could see me a little bit sooner. That's really the only thing I would change. I think each team I've gone through has given me a set of tools that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. So
awesome. Okay, now, something I want to ask, and I know the answer, but it's important, I feel, that these young ladies on the call hear it from someone that's gone through it.
mm-hmm.
What were the challenges like dealing with the locker room situation with the co-ed as you got older?
Mm-hmm. It was hard. It was definitely hard. I was the only girl on all of my teams that I played boys, so it's hard to not make everyone, for the most part, everyone treated me just fine. Everyone was nice and for the most part, but I think it's hard to not really make those like connections. And I think it didn't really affect me then, but going away and being on an all girls team and looking back on it and just realizing like all the connections that I've made on my team now and I couldn't make because I was a girl and on a boys team. But I think just like it's hard, but to separate that and just play and try your best to, if you put in that effort and talk and try to make friends with everyone, they're gonna accept you. It's not like they're gonna be like, screw you, go away. They're gonna welcome you in. So you just have to be yourself and be talkative and all that, and they'll let you in.
Do you have any advice of how to deal with the immaturity of boys as they become teenagers?
I think that's a tough one. I think probably just letting stuff go and not really letting it get to you, because there's nothing you can do and it's not personal. So I think just realizing like they're teenagers and like what they say doesn't really matter, and just let it go and just let it go, like just don't let it bother you.
And the reason why I'm asking those questions, girls, is because when boys get to become teenagers, right or wrong, it happens. They say stupid stuff. Yeah. Boys are immature. Us as coaches do our best to manage it all, and they don't do it in front of us, obviously. But boys are stupid. They do stupid stuff. It's just that easy. It's a big competition of who can be the funniest. Mm-hmm. And then at times it ends up being at other people's expenses, and they say stupid stuff and they cross the line, and then us coaches have work to do, because then we're now with the discipline them when we find out. But it's something that you guys should all understand, that it's coming. You know, when you get to be a bantam hockey player and you play in a boys' room, kids are stupid. Boys are stupid. They say stupid things, and you just have to learn how to. And I think that's great advice that Karley gave. Learn how to, just don't even pay attention to some of that stuff.
I think it's important just to learn how to separate like all the off ice chatter, all of the off ice issues, and separate that when you're on the ice, because when you're on the ice you are a team and nothing else matters. And like even today on a girls team, we still struggle with our issues, and when you step on that ice you have to separate everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that happened back then too.
Yeah.
Everyone did that. Now real quick, I'm done with questions that are written. So if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and fire away. We'll open a little Q&A from you guys sitting there right now. If you do have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Karley. Anyone? Bueller? No? Okay. Looks like most of the questions got answered. Okay. Well, Karley, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to come and help educate the young girls of the area. And, we wish everyone, hopefully we can get on the ice here soon. And we wish, Karley, we wish luck next season and when you move on to college, and for everyone on the call, same. Let's, you guys can go ahead and unmute yourselves and thank Karley for coming out. Or wave. Wave's good too.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Good
Awesome,
luck.
guys. Well, next week we're going to be doing something. Haven't figured out what, so stay tuned for the next email. You guys have a great one.
Thank you for
Bye,
having
guys.
me.
You too.
Coming on, Karley.